A banner with a map of Russia, including the temporarily occupied regions of Ukraine, at the G20 summit. Zelenskyy saw with his own eyes that Kherson is a Russian city. The British recognized the problems with Ukrainian recruits. Find out about these and other examples of Kremlin propaganda in our new episode. Detector Media did all the dirty fact-checking work for you. We have separated real facts from those of a parallel universe. My name is Vadym Miskyi. In the next 10 minutes, I will tell you about the most impressive examples of Kremlin propaganda, as well as about some international media that use unverified sources of information. Here we go. A banner with a map of the Russian Federation, including the temporarily occupied regions of Ukraine, was displayed at the G20 summit. This fake was spread by Kremlin propagandists. According to them, at the Bely airport, the Russian delegation was supposedly welcomed with an updated map showing the temporarily occupied Luhansk, Donetsk, Kherson and Zaporizhia regions of Ukraine as part of Russia. This is not true. The host of the forum, the president of Indonesia, demands to stop the war.
Being responsible here also means that we must end the war. If the war does not end, it will be difficult for the world to move forward. If the war does not end, it will be difficult for us to take responsibility for the future of current generation and future generations.
Stop Fake fact-checkers wrote that Russian propaganda Telegram channels were the first to spread the news about the map of the Russian Federation with the occupied territories. There are no other photos of this map online. Even Russian media used the same photo as the Telegram channels to illustrate the fake, a map with the temporarily occupied territories of Ukraine marked with circles. This banner was created using photo editing software. It is clear why they make up this kind of news. Russia was in fact an outcast at the summit. The aggressor country was represented by Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov instead of Putin. World leaders decided to avoid taking a photo with him. Lavrov left the summit before it was over. Most G20 leaders condemned Russia's invasion of Ukraine. This is stated in the final declaration adopted at the summit. China maintained a neutral position. G20 demands full and unconditional withdrawal of Russian troops from the territory of Ukraine. Zelenskyy was convinced with his own eyes that Kherson is a Russian city. This fake report was spread by Kremlin propagandists and anonymous Telegram channels. According to them, Volodymyr Zelenskyy was supposedly coldly received and even insulted during his visit to Kherson. They claim that the president was embarrassed by this reaction and didn't know what to do. However, this is not true. According to EU versus Disinfo fact-checkers, this story is false. Reporters from different countries recorded many testimonies of local residents who welcomed the Ukrainian army in the liberated Kherson.
We have no electricity in the city, no water, no central supply heating, no mobile connection, no internet connection. But we have no Russians. And I'm extremely happy of that.
US President Joe Biden called the liberation of Kherson a significant victory for Ukraine. He also assured that Washington would not conduct any negotiation with Russia without the participation of Ukraine.
First of all, it was a significant victory for Ukraine. Significant victory. And I can do nothing but applaud the courage, determination, and capacity of the Ukrainian people and the Ukrainian military. I mean, they have really been amazing. And I think it's hard to tell at this point exactly what it means in terms of, but I've been very clear that we're going to continue to provide the capability for the Ukrainian people to defend themselves. And we are not going to engage in any negotiation There's nothing about Ukraine without Ukraine. It's a decision Ukraine has to make. I think you're going to see things slow down a bit because of the winter months and the inability to move as easily around the country. But I think it remains to be seen exactly what the outcome will be, except that I'm confident that Russia will not occupy or defend Ukraine as they intended from the beginning.
Propagandists are trying to deny the fact that Ukrainians are waiting for the liberation of territories. By doing so, they want to prove their claim that Ukrainians are happy to have Russia on their territory. Russia has not yet started to fight at full strength, thanks to the goodwill of the Russians. This manipulative narrative is being spread by Kremlin propagandists. After they surrendered Kherson, they launched narratives on social media that Russia's victory is inevitable. Such narratives have been spread by propagandists since the beginning of this fall, when Russia suffered major defeats. Maybe these propaganda talking points are effective for the domestic audience. However, they do not work for the external one. The Kremlin's greatest perceived enemy, NATO, will continue to help Kyiv.
It is Russia and President Putin that are responsible for the war, and they can also end the war. We have to remember what this is. This is a war of aggression, where one country, Russia, invades another country and tries to control and take territory from that country. And of course, Ukraine has the right to defend itself against the invasion, against the Russian aggression. If President Zelenskyy and Ukrainians stop to fight, of course, then Russia will win and they will achieve their military goals. So the reality is that if President Putin and Russia stops fighting, then we will have peace. But if President Zelenskyy and Ukrainians stop fighting, then Ukraine will cease to exist as an independent sovereign nation. They have the right to defend themselves as an independent nation. Most likely this war will at some stage end at the negotiating table. At the same time, we know that the outcome of those negotiations is closely and fundamentally linked to the strength on the battlefield.
President of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelenskyy, insists that negotiations with Moscow are possible only after all Russian troops completely leave the occupied territories. The British acknowledged the problems with Ukrainian recruits. The Kremlin media is spreading another fake, that Ukrainian soldiers who are trained in the United Kingdom are supposedly uneducated, and it will be difficult for them to resist Russian-trained mobilized soldiers. Kremlin media refer to an article by the Financial Times. The article is indeed about the training of Ukrainian soldiers, and the instructors say that there are several problems in training Ukrainians. The training lasts 5-6 weeks, while the British troops are trained for 14 weeks. Not a word about lack of education or about the fact that the Ukrainian troops are shocked by training conditions that are close to real combat. All these statements about insufficiently professional Ukrainian soldiers were invented by Russian propagandists and inserted into the news with reference to the Financial Times. The British Prime Minister who visited Kyiv did not express any disappointment with the Ukrainian recruits.
President, welcome. How are you? Really good to see you. Good to see you. Very good to see you. You brought us. Well, there we go. Like I say, I've got my coat for later. But your team have been fantastic. Thank you for getting so much.
Rishi Sunak said that the UK is strengthening its training offer to the Ukrainian armed forces by sending experienced military, medics and engineers to the region to provide specialist support.
This year alone, we have provided £2.3 billion of military support, and we will do the same again next year. As you succeed in pushing back Russian forces on the ground, your homes, your hospitals, your power stations are being destroyed by the air. So to help you defend yourselves, we are today providing new air defense support, including 120 anti-aircraft guns, radar, and anti-drone equipment. We're extending our training for the Ukrainian armed forces to include specialist expertise from UK medics and engineers.
Of course, we talked about the protection of the airspace, and thank you for the understanding of the readiness for supporting Ukraine.
The Canadian Prime Minister also spoke about supporting Ukrainian soldiers. Canada will train Ukrainian soldiers in the UK until the end of 2023.
We're going to continue to stand with Ukraine, and on that I'm happy to announce, as I announced just earlier today to Rishi, that we are going to be extending Canada's training mission in Great Britain until the end of next year, as we train up the Ukrainian military to continue to be strong against this Russian invasion.
We would like to remind you that Ukrainian defenders continue their training in accordance with NATO standards in the UK, with the participation of instructors from Canada. Russian propaganda is constantly trying to convince its audience that Russian mobilization will change the course of events on the battlefield and that Ukrainian troops are not good at fighting. Propagandists attribute Russia's military failures to the abilities of imaginary foreign mercenaries and NATO leadership. Well, let them keep searching for those. I am sure that while Russia is sinking into a parallel reality, Ukraine will win in the real world. Have a good day.